base compared to like in bioinformatics. So BMI investigates and supports reasoning, modeling, simulation, experimentation, and translation across the spectrum from molecules to population. So in biomedical informatics, they are looking not only on the molecular levels, but they're looking at the whole population per se, dealing with a variety of biological systems, bridging basic and clinical research and practice, and the healthcare enterprise. So sooner or later, you will find that in the slides, there are more jargons about informatics. So BMI, recognizing the people are the ultimate users of biomedical information, draw upon the social and behavioral science. So in this biomedical informatics, it covers the behavioral sciences to inform the design and evaluation of technical solution and the evolution of complex economic, ethical, social education, and organization system. So in biomedical informatics, it's not only looking at the pure biological system, but they are looking at the translational component of the health systems. So in a nutshell of bioinformatics in perspective, you look at the transition of basic research to applied research here. So biomedical informatics serve a lot more on the component where they actually get input from bioinformatics, information informatics, clinical informatics, and also public health informatics. And subsequently, from these analysis of biomedical informatics methods, theories, and techniques, it then again serve back to the bioinformatics, imaging informatics, clinical informatics, and public health informatics. So you look at this applied research and practice here in the component lower here in the slides. You'll see there's a category among this particular application later. So you look at biomedical informatics, it is actually an applied science, and also some of it will be partially theoretical and will be classified as also basic sciences. So you realize that they fit from various types of fields, ranging from computer science, the hardware, software, from bioengineering, epidemiology and statistics, basic biomedical sciences, all the core subjects that you learned, that clinical sciences, management sciences, and cognitive science and decision making. So this actually is a full architecture of the infrastructure, not architecture, the full infrastructures of the informatics in biomedical. So there is also a textbook related with this biomedical informatics. You can Google and find it, whether there's a PDF copy you can read through. So as I mentioned earlier, come back to the slides previously, that the applied research and practice among the informatics that I mentioned earlier, it can be classified into various subgroups. Okay, and you can see that in clinical informatics and public health informatics, you can see that these two particular area can be actually reclassified as health informatics. So now you look at this particular term here, the biomedical informatics now, it is not equivalent to health informatics, and it is not equivalent to bioinformatics. So health informatics is a subset of biomedical informatics. And we look clearly that how far that this particular component range from molecular to population. So in terms of clinical informatics and public health informatics, they're very much looking into individual, the patient, and also the population and society. Whereas the bioinformatics, they are looking more on molecular and cellular processes, and imaging, of course, you look at the direct tissues and organs responses on certain things. So moving forward, you can see that you can reclassify again on the bioinformatics with clinical informatics in a bigger group as biomolecular imaging, and in the clinical informatics and bioinformatics as a pharmacogenomics. Sorry, just now is bioinformatics imaging as biomolecular imaging, bioinformatics and clinical informatics as pharmacogenomics, okay? And clinical informatics and public health informatics as health informatics or consumer health, okay? So you realize that in the applied research and practice of this subcomponent of biomedical informatics, you can reclassify all these component as clinical translational science. So very much that people now talking about translational is no longer just only the clinical informatics alone, but that incorporate the bioinformatics. That's why in one of the component, the core component of biomedical science, there is bioinformatics. It is important to understand the core component here. Of course, in the very near future, that there will be clinical informatics and also public health informatics be incorporated into your program. However, these two components are more related to clinicals and also the medical programs. So you look at how this particular component being contribute, or what are the other components contribute to this biomedical informatics, and you can see that biomedical informatics methods and techniques and theories actually come from applied informatics, okay, and then the other component sciences actually contribute to biomedical informatics, and the outcome of the biomedical informatics will then actually contribute back to other sciences. And the applied informatics here contribute to clinical or biomedical domain of interest. And then from the particular subset of the knowledge that draw from this particular clinical or biomedical domain is actually served to applied informatics. So in terms of education, okay, this particular component on the biomedical informatics methods, techniques and theories is very much into like a basic research. But if you look at other contexts, when subcomponent of this biomedical informatics like biomedical informatics like bioinformatics, imaging informatics, clinical informatics, and public health informatics, which is applied research, it actually serves the education actually comprises of this component, these two components, which is the biomedical informatics and also all the applied researchers research domain. Okay, look at these slides here showing that the cycles and mission cycles that ties patient care with knowledge creation and dissemination. Very easy to look at this whole perspective. You look at bioinformatics that you learn the hardcore, what computer-based analysis is all based on the computer labs or the experimental data that actually gather and actually reanalyze from the bioinformatics alone. And that particular information will then translate, okay, or will undergo a translational science to serve the clinical trials or whatever clinical setting. So that particular component will then being recorded and also being actually monitored by a certain area or certain sectors that is on the electronic health records. So in terms of this component, it also serves as the public health informatics. So because those data that actually acquire from a patients and also the responses on the drugs and the demographics all actually serve to public health informatics. So that is where the regional and national public health diseases registry, and then subsequently from that component, it will serve to MOH and all these things to provide a standards for prevention and treatment. Because this is important, because not, as I mentioned earlier, in the precision medicine and also personalized medicines, there's no single drug that can fit all the population. So each population or each subgroup will have different type of treatment and also their responses towards a certain approaches and also techniques. So from there, you will create a certain protocol, as I mentioned, guidelines and education material, then to support back the particular provider, okay, care providers or the clinicians. So this is all a learning healthcare system, the overall learning healthcare system. Of course, in your particular syllabus, you won't actually get into all these electronic health records and how they actually tabulate and how this particular component makes useful. But in bioinformatics alone, there is one subcomponent called data mining and also big data, as I mentioned earlier. Okay, those are components where you can use this record to actually simulate a certain patterns or certain formulas to look at the population health per se. For example, in certain hospital setting or a certain district, if you are looking at a certain hospital that responds to a district area. So now, if you look at comparison between biomedical informatics and health informatics technology, you will see that the biomedical informatics training, research, and development encompasses of the academia, research institute, and corporate research labs. Whereas if you look at the health information technology, most of the time is actually covers only on the hospital setting or the medical centers. So it is not inclusive in all those research and laboratories or in the academia, where in the universities. So that's why it is very rare that this particular component it will be incorporated in biomedical sciences, because all of us actually working in the research labs, and also partially only subcomponent that is on the healthcare system, which is the hospitals. So you will see that it's not one way from the biomedical informatics that serve to the health informatics, but there is the data, the output from the health informatics actually synergize or giving a feedback to this component where the biomedical informatics are concerned. So let's move on into health informatics. We have covered a little bit on the biomedical informatics. Later I will show you what is the differences in table form between the biomedical informatics and also health informatics. So now, this term sometimes is interchangeable use, medical informatics and health informatics, but there is a slight differences between these two terms. But in very general, people still overuse or interuse of these two particular terms, the health informatics and also medical informatics. And this particular health informatics is the intersection of information science, computer science, and healthcare. So it is different from bioinformatics. Here, they are looking mostly or emphasize mostly on the healthcare component. So now you look at what are the subsection, okay, in the health informatics. So you have clinical and basic biomedical sciences, you have cognitive sciences, decision science, public health science, organizational science, computer and information science. So you use information technology to meander around all these subcomponents of the area in health informatics. So now let's look into a little bit details on medical informatics. It has been defined as the art and science of organizing knowledge of human health and disease and making it accessible and useful for problem solving. Okay, so the internet here is applied on mostly users of internet or the telecommunication system to define this information structure in a global village. That is where the definition from this particular bulletin. So now the tools used in health informatics includes not only just the simulation or whatever things that you learn, the alignment and all those things, but they have all these clinical guidelines, medical terminologies, information systems, communication system. That's why when some of the biomedical graduates, when they graduated from biomedical science, when they start working in the hospital setting, they'll be surprised that why our syllabus are not actually cover the HIS, Hospital Information System, what we call in short HIS, the Health Information System in the hospital, or sometimes they call it Hospital Information System. So that component are very confined to what hospitals are using. There are numerous approach on the health information system. And it is not that the single theoretical part that can cover everything. Not like just we have alignment and all those things that you learned before. So that's why it is not actually incorporated into the syllabus. You can only experience these component of the health informatics very practical in proprietary to a certain hospitals or medical centers. So the systems actually define or they can have a different advantages and disadvantages. Once you have your industrial training, sometimes you may also expose to the health informatics indirectly, where you key in the patient's name, you check what order they have and how they actually key in all these things, how they link up to, and do you do a backup and all these things. Those are all partial health informatics. it is not solely just a recording. So health informatics is not just a recording of a patient's information, because at the end of the day, if there's an outbreak or if there's any statistics on certain diseases, then it actually tells that how effective a certain treatment or certain approaches, and there is a improvement of the particular approaches or particular training. So let's look at what are the global organizations related to the health informatics. So you have WHO, US Health People 2010, and CDC. So you look at these two components, WHO and CDC play a very important role. So much so that in recent outbreaks like the COVID-19, without the WHO declare as pandemic, I think by right now, half of the population, the world population, have gone. Okay, so you see how important the health informatics alone plays this global control on certain pandemics or certain outbreaks. So all come from here. So you must have a certain centers or a centralized office, what you call it in simple term, office or a centers that actually regulate all the information. Now, how do all these WHO decide when to declare a pandemic? So it is actually from the feedback from the health information system. So that's why it is important to have these infrastructures, the electronic infrastructures in place to actually gel up all these components, the data from the biomedical perspective. Of course, the CDC is a Center for Disease Control. So we also play an important role to supply a genuine information on certain particular diseases. So these are the CDC website. You can have all this link up to NCBI, and also NCBI also sometimes link up to CDC centers where you have all these medicine safety, etc., etc. So you will realize that once the internets are available, when internet's available, there are tremendous information available in the internet. You can see some of this information might not be 100% correct, and some of the consumers or the public may ask, where is the source, the reliable source? Some of the time that you will say, you will heard about a lot of fake news and all these things. So the only place that is reliable in terms of health information and also a certain disease information is always these two places, CDC and WHO. Because all this data has been verified by certain experts and personnel, health personnel. So WHO, you can see a lot of bulletins there. We get to look at certain things. Sometimes they will conduct surveys and all these things. So these are part of the public health informatics. So they are not just a landing page. Landing page means that a page that is actually portray a certain external or third-party information. They are actually they serve like a centers where like universities, but they are not university alone, but like a centers that house for all these public health sectors that actually do a lot of these surveys and also analysis and also updates on a certain diseases or condition of a treatment or whatever. So let's look into public health. That's why in medical degree, there are one branch of public health. Okay, but however, in biomedical, we do not have this component in place. It is because the public health very much actually related to a type of treatment, a certain disease prevention, and etc. Whereas in biomedical, we are mostly focused on laboratory-based component. So that's why the basic degree that served before you can expert in public health is always the MBBS, the medical degree. So because you need those pre-hand knowledge and information before you can actually classify as a public health specialist. So there's also this public health encompasses of health promotion and disease prevention, which is an aspect of public health practice that can be dramatically transformed by informatics. So now if you look at public health alone, it's not like a surgery where very technical oriented. It's not like, even though it's a subspecialties in medical program, it's not like a pathologist, like they look at slides, but they look at data. So public health specialists, they are not only treating the patients, they are not family doctors, but they are also part of this statistician, epidemiologist component, like all these components that gel up into informatics, the health informatics components. So what are the career opportunities, innovative collaboration, consumer health application development, networking opportunity with all these national and global organizations? All these are actually part of the public health components. So public health is concerned with improving the health of entire population. It's not only on individual. So although that the precision medicines, all these serve part of the public health informatics. So this public health informatics actually have an important role to inform, educate, and empower people about health issues. So, and also they are not only, as I mentioned, just a bulletin, just a particular center to disseminate information, not as newscaster information, not a news center, but they also provide research to look into new insights and innovative solution of a particular health problems. How a particular simulation can be done, for example, to look at certain outbreaks, a certain pandemic. What are the components are important in the information that serve to all these particular diseases and etc. So of course, in diagnosing and investigating health problems and hazards in the community. So you look at public health informatics, they are looking at the overall population and also community. These are the what's a keyword in public health: community, population. Okay, it's not individual. So now, when you talk about medical informatics, sometimes you will see that it's interrelated with health science librarianship. Okay, so because this medical informatics sometimes matter on the terminology. So when you talk about terminology, you will come across that this will link up to librarianships. Okay, this particular component deliver of relevant information to clients in the clinics, laboratories, and other health-related works environment. So this particular component, the delivery can be a verbal, can be a digital component. It can be all sorts of mode of relay of information. Okay, so this medical informatics actually creating knowledge-based products and resources. Knowledge-based products here is not, when you look at products, it's not something tangible, but there's something intangible that you can actually share among the patients or the public or population or society. So informaticians and librarians are both analyzing how to best integrate filter knowledge into decision support system for clinicians and researchers. So in this medical informatics, you can see, like I mentioned earlier, there are two ways. They are not one-way tickets that the information served to medical informatics and that's the end, but the analysis from the medical informatics will actually support and give this decision support to the clinicians and also researchers. So now the new definition of health informatics will be health sciences informatics. You look at health sciences and health informatics, these are all fancy names that actually comes up from the health informatics. So because they are trying to actually branch off a little bit more from medical informatics, health informatics, and now you have a bigger picture on health sciences. As I mentioned earlier, with all this terminology, it keep on changing to fit the need of the society and also the experts' fields. Okay, so health sciences informatics addresses how health-related information is structured, acquired, and utilized. So health sciences is a bigger aspect compared to just medical sciences. So what are the new challenges you have these particular health sciences need to prepare? So there's a changes in healthcare delivery and information technology. As I mentioned earlier, in 20 years ago, there's no such thing as targeted therapy. In 20 years ago, or maybe 30 years ago, bioinformatics are not that developed, are not that advanced in a way that help in terms of healthcare. They are mostly used in pure biological system, and maybe that they are being used in a very applied biology. But however, nowadays, when you look at all these information technology, the advancement of bioinformatics. Now you have a lot of these component branch out from the healthcare systems. So these particular component actually serve a purpose to make sure that the consumers, the patients are well informed, and a certain authority is well connected, and all these are being used efficiently. So biomedical informatics application have the potential to bridge the gap between the pool of scientific knowledge and individuals' healthcare-related information needs. So it's not only the patients, but the healthcare professionals as well. So apart from that, librarians are uniquely equipped to understand and provide linkages between information resources and also those who seek assistance. So there is an increasing convergence between informatics and librarianships. So much so that because of the advancement of the digital era, you will see that in terms of librarianship, it is not only solely just cataloging of the information or books or particular articles, etc. These librarianships nowadays in the electronic era, or what we call IR 4.0 and all these things, it encompasses all these informatics, okay, and simulation, etc., to make sure that the informations are gathered and distributed and archived in a proper manners. So the goal of this particular informatics is to engage students and practitioners in the processes of becoming self-directed learners. You'll be surprised nowadays that the patients or the individual who comes to the healthcare sectors or who seek for medical treatments are well versed with their knowledge. You can no longer kind of cheat them, or you can just tell them very general. They can be very deep. They can actually learn by themselves, self-directed learning. So that's why I said, for those people who have obtained a degree to serve in this particular service industry, okay, or particular sectors like in healthcare, please prepare that that you are facing the patient with amount of knowledge that can acquire easily from the internet. So now the health informatics also delivering healthcare globally and also addressing societal problems, and also give a component of the health literacy and digital divide. These are most of the components that the health informatics have to face because of the changes in the platforms and also the mean of relaying the certain messages. For example, in olden days that people are relying only on laptops and also PC desktops, but nowadays if you look at the handphones can serve like laptops or a pad, smart pad or whatever, can be used as a gadget to investigate certain diseases or a condition. It's no longer like very depends solely on a manual apparatus. So these are all change the perception or change the use of information effectively from the particular users. So now if you look at what are the opportunities lay around with all these health informatics, there are point of care, ethically relevant resources, research or clinical trials, health information programs, information reaction, and also patient education materials, web technologies, and all these opportunities related with healthcare informatics or health informatics or medical informatics, and also biomedical informatics. So patient care system, telemedicine, you look at telemedicine nowadays are so common. Huh? So you realize that maybe one of the day that I will invite this CEO from the book dog, okay, the Help for You CEO, to explain to you how now that how convenient a system on an app will help a patient or an individual to set up an appointment with a doctors. So I realized that in the olden days, there's no way that you can actually set up an appointment with a specialist just with a click from your hand. So nowadays, with using all these apps, you can actually, for those of you who want to know more, let's look into a little bit more on telemedicine since I'm talking about that. I'll show you later one of the sites that maybe we wait until the finish of the slides, then I'll show you how this particular system or electronic system has been in place to help all these patients to reach to the designated component or the treatment more effectively, rather than giving a phone call, visiting the hospital or medical center to check who is the specialist, who is the person that actually, what are their credentials, are they fake doctor, how good are they, and all those things. So nowadays, with all these electronic infrastructures, you no longer can cheat, okay? So it's a very easy or what we call that a system that can help and make sure that the confidence of the results being delivered appropriately to the patients and also consumers. So you have all this computer-aided surgery and etc. You realize that one day, medical degree is not just learning about a hardcore physical manipulation of the system, the human system, but you have to know how to use all this automation, the robotic system, and etc. So of course, we are still far to say that the robotics can replace human, okay, in terms of all these services, especially in medical care. But if you aware that all these delicate surgeries, what we call that the microsurgery, etc., last time which can't actually perform by human, now is possible. And with this, all this technology in place, now a lot of these problems that can't resolve previously can be addressed now with this technology. And all this thanks to the health informatics, the engineering, okay, the biomedical informatics, and also bioinformatics. It is not, as I said, it is not the theoretical part on the medical side, but the contribution of all the other components. Maybe at your level, this level, you might not able to see how all this actually being useful. As I mentioned earlier, whatever that you learn, okay, from your degree is just only a very small fraction, which is contribute to the evolution of a certain career or a particular field. Okay, so who does the health informatics serve? The patient, the medical profession, the government bodies, the primary care, national agency, name it, there's so many, finance, admin. So all these are being actually integrated in the health informatics program or system. So the public, the policy makers, regional managers, facility management, healthcare providers, healthcare researchers, healthcare educators, and their students. Is there any one solution that fits all these components? Sorry to say that it's difficult, but people are trying their best to have a system where to gel up all these components. So very simple analogy. You will understand that even in the ministry in Malaysia, that not in Malaysia, I think in the worldwide. So different ministry talking differently, or they will not talk to each other. That means information relay on the Ministry of Health will not be reached to the Ministry of Agriculture, for example. So how is this possible to make sure that the crops or the plant actually serve best to the health sectors? So if all these are not gelled together or not, the gap are not sealed, how do you see the better performance of this particular overall public health? Okay, so all these are actually comes into place with one health solutions, but we are still, I can say personally that we are still far from there to reach that one day there is one solution that serves every single entity. Okay, so apart from the area that I mentioned, there's also data recording area. We have data available in timely manner, support information managers. I'm sure that all of you have heard about paperless hospital. So nowadays, no longer they have all this paper, you have to jot down all this, record something, all these things from the patient. They have all this system available for them to actually record or capture the information via digital manners. It is so much important that you capture all this information digitally because it can be sent easily to the remote area. So for example, let's say patients in Kelantan, so who need help from a specialist in KL. How can they do that? In olden days, they need to travel, okay? They need to take a bus or a taxi or drive all the way from Kelantan to KL, or they uses a telephone. However, with all this mode, first, it is time consuming. And if it's through the telephone, it is inaccurate. Although using telephone, it does helps. You don't need to come over or the bridge, the distance between the specialist and the patient. However, the telephone not allowing you to actually access, okay? I mean in olden days, but nowadays with all these newer technologies in place, they can actually access. You can key in all the information, and then from the remote area, you can then send in the information to the centers where they can actually assess and diagnose and also monitor the condition. So it's no longer that you need to actually come all the way to the health center unless you need an appropriate procedure to be done. And that particular component still a very physical touch on the component or approach. So apart from that, they have email and risk assessment, training, patient assessment. All this can be done using all this health informatics, okay, mobile computing, etc. So you look at the area that have covered so much expanded. Just as I said, not just a recording of information. Huh? So there are drug control, purchasing equipment, payroll, word processing, devices, monitors, analyzing. I will later share with you that the book that I mentioned earlier is not just booking a doctors, but they can also do a claim, e-claiming, like the payroll I mentioned that you can do a e-claim because in the previous days or the olden days, people need to submit a hardcore, what I call that, form, okay, physical paper. You need to fill out a form and then you submit, then you get your claim. However, with all these electronic approaches, you can now do a e-claim through all these particular mobile app and systems. So we move on to like telehealth is one of the components, like I mentioned earlier, telemedicine. So telehealth is the delivery of health-related services and information via telecommunication technology. So telehealth delivery could be as simple as two health professionals discussing a case over the telephone, or as sophisticated as using a video conferencing between providers and the facilities in two countries. That means you don't need, okay, to go to that destination in order to just advise, to actually monitor it. So you need electronic infrastructure, as I said, the internet, okay, the video conferencing and all these things. It helps in terms of telehealth. Or even they can use a remote control via two countries as in robotic technology. You'll be surprised one day, the surgeons in overseas can actually operate patients which is in other country via the control from the cables or through the internet or through this or this what you call it, the electronic line. The telehealth is an expansion of telemedicine, and unlike telemedicine, which more narrow focus on just the curative aspect, telehealth, you see, medicine and health is two particular components. It's all different, but sometimes people just interuse between these two terms. So in telemedicines, they are more related to curative. Health, they are more related to not only curative, but also on the preventive, promotive, and also curative aspects. Originally used to describe this particular telehealth is originally used to describe administrative or educational function related to telemedicine. Today, telehealth stresses on merit of technology solution. For example, physicians use email to communicate with patients, order drugs, prescription, and also provide other health services. Okay. So in the apps that I mentioned earlier, the BookDoc, I'm not actually promoting BookDoc, okay, the app, but this is one of the only very well developed apps. There's not only booking a particular physician or a specialist from your handphone, okay? It also allows you to also check whether there's any nearby hotels, nearby facilities, and how do you go from your spot that you actually booking to the centers, the medical centers. They will link up to a Grab, they will link up to all these hotel booking centers and etc. So now they're linked up also in the insurance where you can do the claim as well. So what are the clinical uses of telehealth technologies? The transmission of medical images for diagnosis, often referred to as store and forward health, telehealth. You realize that nowadays that all these x-rays, whatever things is no longer even though they are still a hardcore x-ray film, they will still provide you the x-ray film, but very often you will see that this x-ray film now is in digital form. That means first, you can store it even longer and you can refer it better and is less expensive compared to a physical x-ray film. And it's less hazardous because the x-ray film actually possess a certain chemical hazardous to the environment. So apart from that, group and individuals can exchange health services or education live via video conferencing or real-time or telehealth. Okay, so you can do a real time kind of a conversation. So while doing the surgery, while doing the diagnosis, while doing the monitoring, so you can get an expert's views on a certain conditions. So transmission of medical data for diagnosis or disease management, sometimes referred to as remote monitoring. So they can do a remote monitoring from one destination to another centers. So apart from that, you can advise on prevention of diseases and promotion of good health by patient monitoring and also follow-up using all this telehealth. So apart from that, it also resolves certain cases where some of the patients are not comfortable in meeting a person to tell them what are their sensitive issues, you see. So this is all related with religious condition and also different gender issues, okay? So apart from that, what are the non-clinical uses of telehealth technologies? These components include distant education, continuing medical education, the CMEs, the grand rounds and patient education. Administrative use includes of meetings among telehealth networks, supervision and presentation, research component using telehealth, online information and health data management, healthcare system integration. Okay, if you look at the other part on the telehealth, you have also this tele-nursing. So you see that there is a lot of these jargons and also terminology mingle around these few words, tele, informatics, and e. So you have e-medicine, e-health, e-nursing. You have also telehealth, tele-nursing, okay, telemedicine. You have also health informatics, nursing, informatics, etc. So these are all interrelated fields where they're supporting each other. Although you find it very funny that most of them look alike, okay? It's just that they are branching more and more different sub-component of the informatics, okay? So telenursing refers to the use of telecommunication and information technology, you see. So most of these particular telehealth, e-health, e-nursing, or informatics, they are all looking into information technology, okay? So you look at all these components, always there is information, the IT part, okay? Always be there, okay, for providing, in terms of nursing here, is providing nursing services in healthcare whenever a large physical distance exists between patient and nurse or between any number of nurses. As a field, it is a part of the telehealth. The telenursing is a subset of telehealth and has many points of contact with other medical and non-medical applications such as tele-diagnosis, tele-consultation, tele-monitoring, etc., etc. There are so many interuse of this particular terminology. So now, as I mentioned, you have tele, you have also E, okay? E stands for electronic, okay? So electronic health, okay, we call it e-health, also written as e-health, is a relatively recent term for healthcare practice, which is supported by electronic processes and communication. So now, let me ask you, does electronic processes include information technology? Yes, that is associated with information technology. The term is inconsistently used And some would argue that it is interchangeably with healthcare informatics and a subset of health informatics. So while others use it in the narrow sense of healthcare practice using internet, okay, infrastructures, and the term can be encompasses a range of services that are at the edge of medicine or healthcare and information technology. So now you have all these electronic medical records. Nowadays is not something new. Okay, I think many hospitals or clinics have started using electronic medical records. The telemedicine, even though I think many of you still not aware about this telemedicine, although they are available, okay, in our country. So many of you still using a conventional approach where you visit PK, you visit what you call it, a clinic, a hospital. But there is a services what we call telemedicine. Maybe some of you can try out later with these particular apps. Later I'll show you. Okay. So apart from that, there's also evidence-based medicine. So this component entails a system that provides information on appropriate treatment under certain patient condition. So a healthcare professional can look up whether this patient's diagnosis is in line with scientific research. So there's a lot of, that's why when you look at all these doctors nowadays, the clinicians, they're always busy with their particular tab. So they are not actually chatting, but they're actually doing all this consultation between the specialists or the practitioners. So sometimes you need to refer. Last time they used to have a meeting to look into cases, but nowadays with all these electronic infrastructures that can actually connect to each other easily via the phones, via the tab, okay, to make sure that the diagnosis or the treatment is correct to the patient or individual. So now you have health informatics, you have also consumer health informatics. So as I mentioned earlier, this word has now expand and expand and expand, okay? So because of the technology in place. So now it's even more challenging, or not challenging, even more exciting with the development of what? What call that? Drones. You know drones? Drones can be very useful not only just monitoring of a certain area, but it can be also now, I have come across that the research being using drones to look at the certain outbreaks of the diseases. They have started using these drones for plant diseases. Maybe one day you can see drones may be useful to screen people with a certain diseases via images, something like COVID. We are not sure. Okay, if that days comes, then we don't need to actually record one by one when we go into all these centers or particular stores. Nowadays, very troublesome, right? You have to actually record and you have to scan and all these things, because this is also thankful to also the electronic infrastructure that can actually speed up the process. So imagine every single stores that you need to write. So how long that you actually, or what are the time you have wasted in all this queuing, okay? So come back to here, if you realize that how actually all these electronic infrastructure helps in curbing all these pandemics. One very good example is in China. If you realize that the recent outbreaks in COVID-19, you know how that China actually stratified each of these particular population or the individual. They actually uses this camera that actually built in everywhere. So each and every individual will have a tag. I mean electronic tag. That means either you are green, red, or yellow. That means if you are tagged red, that means you are high risk. They don't need the information from you to declare, but they already have information. How they gather the information and how they know that you are contacted or you are actually infecting the others, they actually uses the camera. So they can use this digital recognition, the face recognition, your all this feature recognition. They will know that each individual, how actually you move, the movement of the individual. So they don't even need you to actually sign in, but from the images, they actually know where you are actually moving. So these are very useful in terms of actually monitoring and resolving a certain outbreaks of pandemics. So these are real life or a real scenario that you can actually appreciate the use of technologies in terms of healthcare system and also a certain consumer system, consumer health informatics. Okay, so apart from that, you have also this health knowledge management or specialist-oriented information provision, where, for example, in an overview of latest medical journal, best practices guideline, or epidemiology tracking. So this component is now in place, incorporated into a certain apps, where, for example, let's say while a doctors or a surgeons doing their procedures, how would they actually go to the computers and search for journals? But there should be a particular platform where they actually integrate all these best practices guideline information all in a fingertips, okay, through the particular pad or whatever handphone. So with all this information, there's also virtual healthcare teams that consist of healthcare professionals who collaborate and share information on patients through the digital system. So what are the technical challenges? The complex nature of the medical data. As I mentioned earlier, medical data is not just your height, your weight, okay? There's a lot more on the particular medical records, okay? It's now incorporated with the genome, with allergies, with your history, the inherited component, your pedigree, your races, and all this, etc. So your nutrition, okay, your condition, the environment, and all these things contributed to all this medical data. So the complexity of it actually makes the system to predict certain things or to simulate or to analyze things even more difficult. So the alphanumeric component, where the lab results have the numerical numbers and also the characters, okay, the alphabets. So the text discharge summary signals, certain signals, as I mentioned earlier, they have a different language, computer language that can be actually incorporated. How can they have a single universal language to actually communicate between machine to machine? So for example, a robotics machine in a surgery will not be able to actually capture the signals from the laboratory in a pathology lab, a signal from the pathology laboratory, okay? So these are all some of these hiccups, okay, come along in all these electronic infrastructures. It is all because of the protection of a certain business entity. Because if let's say you have all this universal, one thing first is easy to hack. Okay, people who can hack your data and they can do wonders with that. Okay. So apart from that, images, video, and all these things will have different format. You realize that nowadays you look at the videos, there are so many formats. Okay, health informatics and also biomedical informatics is a graduate program. That means it's a postgraduate program. It's a 1 year or 2 year extension of what you have studied. So that is, but let me ask you, how many hospital required, how many health informaticians required in a hospital? So that is also another issue. That's why for a country like us, Malaysia, so although we have many hospital and healthcare centers, but the demands of all these component or this individual or this specialist still not there yet, okay, as compared like in US or UK, because there are tons of hospital and healthcare providers or clinics. So work environment, what can this particular graduate serve? They have all these areas you can see, ranging from nurse, informaticists to hospital directors, okay, hospital management or directors of medical informatics or chief medical officers, etc. So these are the salary. You can see that certification, resources, etc. You can look at all these things, okay? You can look at how different between these two areas. So now, some of you might have handphone. You can open that handphone and then open your apps, the one that you can download apps, okay? Then you can go to this, not this site, but that is when you want to search for apps, what we call that? I also forgotten that things. Play Store. You can go to the Play Store and type BookDoc. Try to download this app. It's a very useful app, and UPM have signed MOU with BookDoc, and they have all these challenge, virtual challenge. This particular BookDoc apps allows you to actually capture the active steps that you actually commit per day or per month or per week. So wherever you walk, they will capture. So that can actually tells you how many steps that you walk in related to health, apart from allowing you to actually book a particular doctors. So let me share. Where am I? Stop sharing. Share this. Okay, now look at this site where there's a BookDoc. This related apps is a one-stop center for corporate healthcare. You can also get health information and also search and book a doctor. Not book, not the buku, is book tempat. Okay, you can book a doctor. You can using this app. Of course, this interface is just what you call that, the website. But when you go to the app, you will see that there's a lot more other option. Okay, so I can't do the handphone interface in my PC. Okay, so but you can browse later. So this BookDoc, as I mentioned earlier, you can do a telemedicine. That means if you want to speak to a consultant or a specialist, but of course there's charges. It's not everything free, but to download the app is free. So to actually participate in the virtual challenge, that means how many steps, all these things, is free. You don't need to pay anything, but if, let's say you are the highest achiever, that means in that particular month, they will give you a lot of things, okay? Some people want a handphone out of these particular challenges, okay? That means you just need to walk. You just need to start your app and just use it. Some of you may have this Fitbit you wear in around your wrist and all these things to capture the steps, isn't it? So you can synchronize using this app as well, so they can actually capture. So UPM and also this BookDoc very soon will arrange a virtual challenge. Okay, so for together with MOH Ministry of Health, and one of these prizes will be handphone. Okay, feel free to participate. You don't need to pay anything. You need to sign in only. Okay, sign up with this particular apps. And apart from the grand virtual challenge with all these things that actually provide, they also have all these small little achievements. For example, let's say a week, you can demonstrate that you walk 3,000 steps average. Okay, then there is certain voucher you can claim. There are so many vouchers, secret recipe voucher, you have Watson voucher, Guardian, so many. They have more than 30 to 60 stores participated in this particular app. It's a very useful and very reliable app, I can say, which is created by what we call that, by a local person, a Malaysian. Datuk Chiwi is a very young entrepreneur and very innovative person. His dad's actually from BP Labs. You know that BP Labs. So he actually derived from there. Okay. I actually promoted this since early this year, but many of you didn't realize in my Facebook and all these things. So the Raya challenge already over, because before this there's a Raya challenge, because remember that Raya during Raya is PKP, the MCO. So many of you cannot go out, cannot do exercise and all these things, but you can do a virtual challenge. That means when you walk at home and all these things, you can capture. And many people actually want so many other things. So stay tuned with my Facebook, because I have a lot of this engagement with the industry that actually sometimes it can help some of you in finding a job, in certain application, etc. Okay, we announce very soon, the flyer is almost out, then I will share with you how to participate with all these activities. Okay, these are all okay, good. I heard that some of you pernah collabs and BookDoc for sponsorship. Okay, great. Great. At least you make full use of their assistance. So there are a lot more other things that those of you, actually they are looking for interns also. When I advertise, I think with Dr. Fiza. Dr. Fiza is intern. Apa ni? yang arranged for the latihan industry. So, but no takers. I think only one person take up the latihan industry with them. So you can actually do a training with a book dog to see how their particular internship. Okay, to look into how well it's actually covered. Oh, okay. Some of you say that the internship job is not accepted by the faculty. Oh, okay. So yeah, because there is a requirement from the MQA that the internships should be laboratory based. So never mind. But after that, after your work, you can still do an internship. I mean, after your study, you can still do an internship with them. That means that is beyond the program. Okay, that means after you graduate, you are while waiting jobs, you can look for them. Okay, they are expanding. They are looking for what 50 to 60 interns a year. Okay, so maybe from there you will learn a lot of all these electronic infrastructures, the telehealth, all the etc. etc. Okay, it's an interesting platform where I can see all this telemedicine, telehealth, all this will be very well accepted with the public. Okay, I think that's all for today's lectures and also some of this sharing. So now you can see they are actually have all these, now you can see that the rewards, they can see that how many steps that you can cover. Okay, so then you can redeem the rewards from the active steps that you walk. Okay, so they are compatible with all these Fitbit, Samsung Health, I don't know what's all this Jawbone, Apple Health, Google Fit, etc. Okay, so you can search, okay, and book a doctors. For example, you want to find a cardiac surgeon, okay, orthopedic bone. Okay, let's say you don't know what is orthopedic. Some layman bone doctors. See whether they come out or not. See, so they have all these. You look at the features here. You can directly book. You don't even need to call because they're synchronized with their particular. Or some of you asked whether it's available for all countries. So far, Malaysia. I heard they have extended it to Thailand, a few other countries, but not worldwide. Okay, but over Malaysia, they are almost cover. I say almost, not all. Almost cover all the private hospital or private clinics. Almost all. They are trying to cover all, but I see there are still few clinics which are not covered because they need to participate. It's not automatically there will be not like a directory. That's why they're working very closely with the Ministry of Health to ensure that they are covering more and more. Okay. Any of you actually redeem any of these rewards, the vouchers? Okay, see, you can see from the screen here, so you can see that you can book what are the time that you want to see and all that, etc. So if you look at the doctors here, you want to check whether they will do a due diligence. That means they will not list a doctor who are not actually registered with MMA. So whatever doctors or clinicians that actually registered here or posted here is all valid. You can see their profiles. For example, they graduated from where, what are the credentials, okay, their medical registration numbers, what languages they speak, okay, so etc. What are the services that they can do, okay, so what are the clinic hours, okay, for this particular person. So you can look more. Okay, you can email them, and you can also, I heard you can also talk to them. Okay, if let's say you wanted to do a virtual workout consultation. Okay, but all this virtual consultation or telehealth kind of conversation requires you to pay. Okay, they may actually deduct from your, I don't know, your particular e-wallet or somehow your credit card, etc. So these are very convenient because some of you might be shy to talk in front of a person or in front of a doctors. Then you can do using emails, using responses, WhatsApp, all this. They actually response, you know, using WhatsApp and all this thing. But as I mentioned earlier, need to pay. Okay. For those services lah. Of course, you want to book all these things is free, not until you actually go there and then they charge you lah with whatever services. Okay. So I think that's all. Any questions so far? Now I think I heard they can also buy products, okay, health related products from their site. That's why they're expanding. Any questions so far? In fact, I'm trying to arrange a forum with this Dato Shiri. Very good. Someone redeemed for boost. Okay. Okay, I think that's all. I think a lot of you having a second test or a lot of assignments to do to replace the test. I don't want to take your time. So this week is a 12 week or 13 week, the week 13. This week, what, the week 11, week 12 or week 13? Week 12 already. So you have another 2 more weeks to conclude your semester. So I need to speed up lah. Okay. I think that's all. All the best to all of you. You can, if there's no question. Okay, bye everyone.